Good morning, YouTube family. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you might be. Welcome to Escape from Crazytown and welcome to Happy Crappy Hour, our live stream. So, oh my gosh, today we have a pretty good topic. At first, I thought it might be kind of, innocuous and just so topical and not very deep, but it turns out that this topic is quite deep. The more I thought about it, the more I started remembering the interviews I'd seen of criminals, and my own experiences with the narcissists that are and have been in my life. I was thinking, holy cow, yeah, this question is really good to ask. So I was faced with this question this past week, which is, do narcissists think that they're good? And, at first you think, well, who cares, right? Who cares if they think that they're good people? But once you get into their head and you realize why they think of themselves the way they do, it kind of opens your eyes to the fact of where you stand in their life and where you stand in their world. And that really helps me, at least, and I hope it helps you too, to pull away from the narcissist. And I don't mean that in a horrible, mean way, because I'm a very sympathetic and empathic person, and I'm there for people, I'm loyal to people. But to narcissists, you have to be so careful because you cannot treat narcissists the way you would treat normal people. You have to understand how their mind works in order to set up the proper healthy boundaries for them, because your boundaries with narcissists have got to be firm. They cannot be wishy-washy. They cannot be temporary. They have to be firm and they have to be constant. So welcome you guys to Happy Crappy Hour. That's going to be our topic today. I want to say good morning to some of you guys already hopping on. Jihad, good to see you. And Numo, good to see you. Revolution Now, good to see you too. And DS. So thank you for hopping on today. Um, oh, okay, great. DS, thank you so much for hopping on and wishing a good show here. I see you have to work, so you'll catch us the upload or the video later on. So glad to hear that. Good morning, Revolution Now. I love that. Well, you guys, well, Happy Crappy Hour is about, what has gone well this week and what has gone not gone well. So the happies and crappies, and I want to share those with you today. And that's how we kind of build community. We learn what's going on in each other's lives, and we share what we're learning also through our experiences. And I hope you guys will be sharing your experiences. Well, my happy this week is actually I had quite a few happies. Last weekend, I got to go visit some friends who were renting a place kind of near us. It was a couple hours from our house. So they were on vacation and they were renting this place for I guess a bit more than a week. So we got to hang out with them over the weekend and wandered around the town they were visiting and made meals together, just breaking bread and enjoying each other's company. It was great. We got to see, oh, it was pretty cool. We got to visit some sites that were going on, and activities and competitions that were going on in that town. So that was always nice. I want to tell you though, one thing I learned about myself, which was really awesome. I'm so proud of myself. Is so I was driving us around in and see how many of us were there. Five? I guess there were five of us, right? So I ended up driving because my husband got pretty sick and he wasn't feeling very well and he was really tired because it had been a really long day for him. So I offered to drive us around town. So I'm out there and it's at night. It's gotten dark. It's pretty cold and there's a lot of traffic because there was a big old sculpture competition that was going on, and so everybody had come out to check out the sculptures. And so we were driving around town, and of course there are pedestrians walking all over the place, so you got to avoid them. And then there were cars, parked up and down the street. There was no parking no matter where we looked. Even the parking lots, paid parking lots, were packed. So we're getting stuck. And anyway, And we're also getting a little bit lost because I had a couple of people in the car trying to direct me to different parking lots and different streets, and they would, holler out, "Wait a minute, not here! Turn left there! Turn right here!" "No, no, right now, you got to turn." And while that was happening in the car, I was really surprised at my own reaction. I listened, I was way more present than I had been in, years past. I didn't panic. I didn't get upset with people, different people yelling at me about which direction to go. They didn't mean to yell, like they weren't angrily yelling. They were just getting louder because they thought I couldn't hear them from the back seat. And of course, my husband to the right of me was also giving me directions, opposing what the people in the back were saying, you know. So I handled it really well. I tried to listen to both of them. I looked at where we were headed. I made my decision which way I thought was right. And, lo and behold, we found a great spot. We got through the town. It took us, I think, probably at least 15 minutes looking for a parking spot. It might have been 20. So I just had a lot of patience for it because I figured, what's the point of getting upset or frantic or, even with people trying to give you directions and you can hear they're kind of getting a little edgy because they're nervous for me. And it turns out, so the people in the car, guys in the car were telling me, oh my gosh, this would have really upset me if I were driving because I don't like driving in crowds. I don't like driving when people are yelling directions at me. And I don't like driving when other drivers and pedestrians aren't following the law and they're cutting across all over the place. Anyway, I was so happy. I mean, it could have been a crappy, like we could have all gotten into a huge fight. Here's the deal. Situations like that could be stressful. You could end up in a huge fight and saying things you wish you didn't say, or using a tone, or, getting angry at one another. And I just was present enough to realize, or I didn't even have to make a choice. It was just a part of me. I had practiced this so much for over the last few years that it was just automatic for me to take things very lightly, assess things quickly. And even if it wasn't as quickly as maybe other people thought I should have, it turned out to be the right decisions. And so I trusted myself, made the right decisions, and stayed calm and kept things light and acknowledged each person who is, calling out directions to me and letting them know what I'm thinking and who I'm listening to and for what reason, and everybody was happy. We had a great time, even with 20 minutes of driving around trying to find a parking spot. We had a great time together. We had a lot of laughs. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because, life lessons and experiences are great to share so that other people can see, oh, there have been times I've been really stressed out and I don't want to put myself in those situations. And I totally understand that. But if you do find yourself in those situations, don't be too afraid. Start practicing the good habits. Start practicing calmness. Start practicing being present. Start practicing acknowledging the people around you and voicing it, communicating, right? Because I think also what tends to get people upset is when you stay silent and people are trying to get a reaction from you or getting you, to listen to them and they want to know that you hear them. And you just stay silent because you're thinking in your head, which is great, for you to process. But then let them know, like, okay, I'm thinking about this. I'm not sure about that. Just communicate. And it seems to make everybody feel heard and acknowledged and less frantic. So, you guys, that was my happy and crappy, I suppose, but very happy that it turned out well. And I'm so glad that I had learned these lessons over the last several years, and put them in practice. It's just constant practicing self-control, constant practicing communication, and practicing being present. So, you guys, that was my happy and crappies. we are going to get moving on the topic today. So good to see you guys. Water Grove, good morning to you. Hold on. And John, good to see you. Let's see what you guys are saying here. Water Grows was just listening to music, and look at this, another live. Thank you. Well, you're welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Numo says the hoovering has lessened now that I put boundaries. Yes, I started recording our conversations now. Now he leaves me alone. Wow, and he's still playing games. That is awesome. Thank you for pointing that out. Record your conversations. People who definitely those who are getting ready to go to court for custody or divorce or whatever it might be, uh, splitting assets for whatever reason. Keep a recording. That's such a great idea. Keep a recording of your conversations because you never know when you might need that to show that you're not absolutely nuts. It's sad, but we have to prove our own sanity in a court or to a judge or to our own lawyers, and you you want to be able to present some kind of evidence of what you're dealing with. And just because you tell them stories doesn't mean that they're going to believe you. So thank you for sharing that. Yes, recording your conversations. Um, yeah. So you guys, let's get moving on this question. It is absolutely, oh my gosh, I don't know. It kind of put me through the blues, by the way, this last week. Because when I try to think about what the narcissist is thinking and try to get into their minds or review or read up on the narcissists that are out there now or criminals that are getting interviewed, I watch these interviews and I review my experiences in my head, and it's so depressing. It really is. And I have to like take time out from that and get myself centered and look at reality and walk in the sunshine. Oh my gosh, after dealing with narcissists, even if you're not actually interacting with them, even if you're just reviewing it in your mind, you're reliving or you're revisiting memories that you've had with them, it just drags you down. So, if you guys are doing that, and I'm sure, we all kind of, think back on our lives and our experiences, trying to figure out what happened. As you do that, remember that every time you do that, counterbalance it. Okay, counterbalance it with something good. Like go out for a jog, go for a walk, spend time throwing a stick or a ball around with your dog, hang out with your pets, and snuggle with them. Do something positive that will then bring you back to reality, bring you back to a good place. And one of the examples or stories I have for you today is so horrible and traumatizing that it just bothered me for pretty much the whole week, from the time I watched it. And one of the comments that was at the bottom of this video, I often read the comments because I want to hear what other people's reactions are. And I want to hear also sometimes follow ups. People will dig a little deeper and find out what's happened to the characters or the people who are being interviewed or who are in the documentary. So in the comments, somebody wrote, you cannot unsee that, and it's true. Some things that we see and we read about are so traumatic that it affects us, even though we didn't live that trauma. So that's why it's so important to bring yourself back to reality, bring yourself back to the present, into a good place after you experience or you review or you visit a traumatic experience, whether it's in a documentary, a movie, or you're not so desensitized that it doesn't affect you. It does affect us. So you guys, what uh, let me see here. Let me just say hi again to a couple of you guys. Sorry about this. Oh, I have some comments. Let me see what you guys are saying. Water Grove says even the overt narcs can be recorded. Yeah, no name needed, just a timeline. In time, the name will come. Oh, okay. Yeah. Like in the recording. Yep. So I'm trying to think if I should start with the worst story possible. Okay. So, narcissists, do they think that they're good? And, from what I'm seeing and what I've watched in interviews and what I've read, my own experiences, yeah, they do. They actually think that they're good people. They don't understand that what they do is horrid. And I'll go into why that is as well. There are a couple of things I wanted to recommend to you. One of them was a book I read a couple of years ago, and I need to read it because it was so eye opening when I was learning about narcissistic personality disorder. I This book was recommended on Amazon or something. I can't remember why, but it's called Without Conscience by Robert D. Hare. Again, Robert D. Hare, Hare, is the author, and the book's name is Without Conscience. If you want to, you can go onto my website, Escape from Crazytown. What is it? .com, I guess. Yeah, just www.escapefromcrazytown, all one word, .com. You'll go to shop, and I have there listed all the books that I recommend. And I really should add more to it, and I'll keep adding more books to it. But this is one of those books. So in this book, there's the person who wrote the book is a clinical psychologist and a research psychologist. He did a lot of his research at the beginning of his career in a prison or prisons, interviewing inmates. And this is how he came to learn about narcissistic personality disorder. Like back in a time when it was not a huge thing, and people were not that aware of what NPD was. He was interviewing these inmates, and he fell under the spell of the inmates. And not just him, but some of his research assistants also fell under the spell of the narcissist. And the reason I bring this up is because when he was listening to the inmates, they were so personable. They were so pleasant in conversation. A lot of them, not all of them, some of them were just very aggressive, and it was, you could tell they had mental issues going on and they were very angry. And so those are very obvious. But the ones that were just very calm and personable and pleasant to talk with, and they were so convincing to him and to his research assistants. They actually believed that these inmates were good people. They actually believed that these inmates were maybe mistakenly put here. And come to find out, they saw different sides of these inmates over the period of times that they were interviewing them. And they came to know that these inmates were completely manipulating and lying to them and putting on a persona that masked who they really were. Come to find out, they were like these hideous, horrible murderers, torturers, rapists, that did horrible things to their victims. It was not by accident that they were in the prison. And when he and his research assistants discovered these things about the inmates they're talking to, they realized, holy cow, how deceived they were into believing, because the narcissists were so convincing, so convincing. And that's how he came up with the title of the book, called Without Conscience, because people who can be that convincing actually believe this about themselves. They actually believe that they are so good. They believe they are kind and good and caring or thoughtful. They believe they're generous. And I'm going to give you a specific example I'm still dealing with the trauma of having watched this documentary. And you can find this documentary yourself. Oh, it's horrible, horrible, horrible. And I hate to even talk about it, but I want to let you know and explain to you, because it is so it opens your eyes. It makes it so clear. The documentary, I think, is called something like Turning Out. Turning Out. And that's and I think maybe the subtitle was The Gay Culture in Prisons, something like that. So if you Google that, you should be able to find it. It's horrible, horrible. And let me give you a disclaimer up front. You will not be able to unsee it. You will not be able to erase it, immediately from your mind. It may fade over some time. But to watch this documentary, it's just appalling, appalling. But you don't realize it at first. You don't realize how appalling it is until, I want to say, probably a good half hour, 45 minutes into it. Because, yeah, I don't know, halfway through, at least more than halfway through into it. So it starts off with a couple of inmates. One is an ex-gang member, and he's the predominant one they were interviewing through most of the documentary. And as they're interviewing him, you actually get to, I don't want to say like him, but you actually do. You think, wow, okay, maybe this guy is not such a bad guy. I'm not even sure what his crimes were, but I can, I didn't look into it, but uh, just what he's even doing in the jail right now, or I don't know if he's still there. I assume he probably is, but what he had been doing in the jail at the time of this documentary is enough to keep him behind bars. But you don't realize that at first, because the way he talks to the camera, to the interviewer, you think he's such a personal person. He's smiling, he's pleasant, he sounds even kind. He describes himself. Oh my gosh. Okay. The way he describes himself to you, you think that he is a protector. You think that he's a father figure. You think that he actually cares and is a lover to the people that he is, they call it turning out, what they do to other male inmates that they want to have sex with. So, who are not even gay, they come in there, they're hetero, and they make them their girlfriend, essentially, right? And I don't want to go into details. It doesn't go into great detail until halfway through, but you get the gist of the idea, you get the gist of the story as this inmate tells you what he does to a person that catches his eye. Every new person that comes in, they size them up, and um, it's just horrible. I don't even know that I want to go into the entire story, but essentially he talks about like the first time he does something to them that, he says, yeah, they give me some resistance at first, but then they realize, that I take care of them and I share my, I don't know what they call it, but they have like ramen noodles and wipes, and I don't remember. They get like some cookies and biscuits. I don't know, just commissary type stuff. And they talk about if they don't have money, they use that to barter with, and they actually also use that to get other inmates indebted to them. It's horrible. It's like loan sharking, where if they say, well, I'll give you a coffee pack, and by next week you have to return 2 coffee packs. And if they don't return 2 coffee packs, then the next week it will be 4 coffee packs. And the next week it will be 8 coffee packs. So it gets to the point where they cannot even possibly return what they had borrowed, right? The 1 coffee pack. They borrowed 1, and then suddenly, before they know it, they owe 16. And in order to give that, or be able to get that, they'd have to steal it from another inmate or cause other problems, or earn it through sex. It's horrible, horrible, horrible. Anyway, so this guy, they interview him, and they interview his main, I guess, partner. I don't know if it was even his main partner, but in the story, in their interviews, they focused on these two and their relationship. So this young guy comes in and he looks like, a baby doll, really, just very handsome and very innocent looking and very clean cut. And of course, the older inmate sets his eyes on this guy. And he talks about how, he turns him out. And, he didn't want to at first, but, after I did a few times, then he understood and he joined my, what did they call it? Family. They call it family. He joined my family, where this guy now has, I don't know, 4 or 5 other guys that he's doing this with. Anyway, so gross. I cannot. Okay. And then even to listen to the victim, you hear him talk and you hear about how he cares about the guy who assaulted him repeatedly and throughout his time in jail. To hear him talk, you'd think they were lovers and that they cared about each other. And part of that is because of what's called, what is that called? That syndrome. I'm sorry, you guys. I really hadn't thought about Stockholm Syndrome, where you start to care about the person who's assaulting you, who's keeping you prisoner, who is abusing you. And that happens with victims of narcissists, even, of course, on the outside of prison. So on the inside, he's come to believe that this guy who's tormenting him is actually caring about him and protecting him from the others, right? Yes, thank you for mentioning that. Stockholm Syndrome, yes. So, yeah, I think that's what's happening to the young guy who comes in. And you're just watching this and you feel so bad for this guy. Holy cow. And you just are trying to figure out, like, how do they twist their minds to back to reality when they come out of prison? Because that guy does come out of prison, the younger guy. He does end up back in prison again. And it makes me, so many things go through my mind, by the way, like prison reform, absolutely necessary. And sending people to prison where they're not being rehabilitated, but they're getting worse because of the kind of culture that's going on inside of there. And Robert D. Hare, which, who I mentioned earlier on in the book he wrote, Without Conscience, talks about how people are not being rehabilitated in prison. And that not only that, but within a prison, he said some statistic he was guessing at from the people that he interviewed in prison was that I think it was 80 to 90% of the population there are narcissists. And these are not just people who think they're good looking. This is not the benign, oh, I think I'm so pretty, or I think I'm so handsome and everybody likes me, that type of narcissism, but the narcissism where you have no conscience. No conscience. All right. So back to the prison story. Later on, they interview, oh my gosh, an accomplice, right, to the older guy. And the two of them are being interviewed, I think, separately. And each of them are giving a story about one time when they turned out another prisoner. So this new prisoner comes in, not the young kid that I mentioned earlier, but this is another prisoner that came in. So this prisoner comes in, totally not gay. The two of them corner him. And here's the thing, like, how the heck is this happening in prisons where they are able to corner each other, right? This should not be happening. So they corner this guy, and the main guy I'm talking about, he tells the guy, to get ready to be penetrated. And the guy's like, no, dude, please don't. I'm not gay. And he's begging, and they're like, it doesn't matter to them, right? And they're like, come on. Anyway, he describes kind of in detail, and I don't want to here, what they do in order to also not get caught and to make it look like the victim is encouraging it themselves, right? So at first the guy's like, no. And then the second accomplice says in his interview what the first guy really does. The first guy doesn't go into detail about how violent he was with the new inmate, but the accomplice does. He goes into detail, talks about how they strike him in the face, how the first guy strikes him in the face and stuns him. Then they hold a knife up to the guy's eyes and threaten that they're going to, of course, stab him. They threaten to dislocate his jaw, and or not, or yeah, to break his jaw. And so he submits. And then the accomplice talks about when the first guy is assaulting that inmate, right? The new inmate. He can hear him crying, and he can hear the pain in his, yelling, it was stifled, and he knew it was painful to this guy. And then he gets all, bottom line is they tear up this guy, the two of them, and they assault him, each of them 3 times. To listen to the first guy talk about this experience or this incident, you would think that it was benign. You would think it was just, oh, he resisted a little bit, but I had to, get him under control. So he, I had to do these things in order for him to not resist me. I mean, just the words that he chose made it sound like it was just a little bit of a scuffle, and that the guy just eventually just decided to go ahead and give into it. It'd be better. And there wasn't like this huge life-threatening threat, assault going on. There were, he didn't mention a weapon. It was the second guy. It was the accomplice that mentioned all the details. And once you heard all these details, you're like, what the heck? For the last half hour or 20 minutes, you're listening to this inmate talk about other guys that he assaulted. And the way he describes it makes it sound like he cared so much for each of these people that he assaulted. And that he even used the word love, like he loved these guys. He himself was not gay, actually, he said. Even before coming into prison, he was always with women and he never thought about being gay. So I'm guessing the same thing probably happened to him when he entered the prison. And now he's one of the worst perpetrators of what's going on in that culture. So now, to listen to him for the first half hour, you would have thought he was such a protector of these other younger guys or newer guys that were coming in, that he loved them, that he cared about their safety. He called them his family. That's the term they use for. So, okay, I went into quite a bit of detail, but actually not every detail that I saw in that documentary. I'm trying to save you from some of this, by the way. It was so traumatizing for me to watch. You guys, it was, anyway, I'm just looking here on some of the comments. I'm so glad you guys are hopping on. I'm not sure where you are in this story here, but we're talking about, do narcissists think that they're good? And to listen to them, you think that they do. They actually think they're protectors. They actually think that they're givers. They actually think that they are lovers and generous people. And Robert Hare wrote a book called Without Conscience, of how these narcissists, these inmates, think. And it's not just inmates, there are people walking amongst us who believe and think and behave in this way. They just have not committed or gotten caught doing the kind of crimes that would land them in jail. And I'm not a big person about, send everybody to jail. I'm not a proponent of that either, especially after watching this documentary. It just appalls me. It appalls me that they mix the populations like this. And you feel so bad for those who end up in there on much more minor infractions, and you're wondering why they have to suffer this. Okay, you guys. So I wanted to talk about why, what is it? How do they speak? What does it sound like when narcissists talk about themselves, right? And why do they behave this way? Well, first of all, their perception of justice, of fairness, a narcissist's perception of justice is probably the scariest thing you will ever hear because they don't see other people as people. They don't have a conscience about what other people are going through. That comes because of their lack of empathy. So if they don't have empathy, they're not going to care what impact they have on you. Like they're not going to care other than that you submit, that you do what they tell you to do, and that you fall into line so that they can accomplish the things that they think will make them happy. And that's their goal. They're not concerned about empathy or how you're feeling as what while they're doing things to you or they're abusing you. They're not concerned about even if it's life threatening what they do to you, because their ultimate goal, their ultimate focus is their own happiness. And they'll even consider like the oh it's so distorted, but they'll consider them themselves as good people because they actually feel like they love you, maybe even care about you because you are good supply to them. So long as you're good supply to them and you're good to them and you make life pleasant for them, then they love you and they think that's love. That's what love is. And they feel this attachment to you because of what you can do for them. And they think that's love. And so when they're affectionate, they're acting like, look, I'm being affectionate to you, so therefore I am being loving. However, on the other hand, they could also be abusing you physically and verbally when they are not happy. And I'm trying to, you don't want to stay in the mind of a narcissist for too long because it is just so horrid, horrid, horrid. But they think about how if you are not pleasing them, then you no longer exist as a person. So long as you are pleasing to them, then you exist as an object in their life that they want to take care of in order to continue to give them pleasure or give them happiness or do their bidding. But the moment they lose sight of that happiness, and it doesn't even have to be your fault, like you're still good supply, you're still doing everything they wanted you to do, but something else happens. Say somebody else is, they got fired from their job, or somebody cut them off in traffic, or somebody else got in a fight with them. They are going to take it out on you because now they are no longer happy. And even though you're still good supply, even though you're still doing the same things you've always done for them, because they're in this horrible, terrible mood, they feel like they can destroy whatever obstacle or whatever object is in their path. And if you're there, you're in their path. So to them, it is completely within their conscience to destroy you as they explode or as they feel like they don't have to be nice because of the way they're feeling, because their feelings are the most important thing in the room. What you're feeling does not matter. So if they want to take their aggression out on whatever's in the room, including you, it's to them that's justice because of how they're feeling. And then later on they'll hug and kiss you and think like, oh, now I'm being loving to you, so you see, I do love you and I am good to you. And they erase what they had just done to you, even maybe an hour ago. They don't even remember how they treated you an hour ago, and they expect you, because of Stockholm Syndrome, to come back to them and be loving towards them and care about them and stroke them and pamper them and take care of their wounds, their emotional or even physical wounds. They don't care about you other than what you can do for them. And to them, that's logical. To them, it makes sense because they have no conscience. So you guys, again, I do recommend that book, Without Conscience. You get a better idea of what the heck, and to kind of, I don't want to say lesser degree, because there are narcissists out there that are not violent, okay, or at least not as violent, to get them into jail, that is, but they still have this mental block. They still have this mental disorder where they cannot see you as a whole human being that should have the same rights that they have. They just don't see that. They only see from their perspective. They're the king of their world. They're the center of the world, and they don't understand how other people don't treat them this way, and it upsets them and it injures them that people don't treat them like they're the center of the world. Oh, you guys, it's so incredible. So I wanted to explain also that, if they feel injury or insult to their ego, the insult and injury will be so exaggerated and out of balance to their reaction. Their reaction would be off the charts, even though the injury, okay, like say, for instance, let me see, somebody doesn't say thank you when they open a door for them. Okay, big deal. Yeah, that's annoying. Okay, you feel like, gosh, that person could have said thanks. To a narcissist, they might be like, what a total blah, blah, blah. And man, they will think that this person is the devil. The person who didn't say thank you must be, the worst person in the world. And it could have been like the person who didn't say thank you just had a bunch of things on their minds and they just weren't thinking or just didn't notice. So, but a narcissist would, in their mind, even if they don't react on it, in their mind will think that this is the absolutely worst person in the world that didn't acknowledge them, didn't thank them for, doing such a grand thing, such as opening a door. Oh my gosh, they'll take it as they just take everything out of perspective, out, and exaggerate what they've done for other people, but also exaggerate the injury that they feel from other people. They live in this crazy, out of balance, exaggerated world where, and it's not consistent exaggeration, by the way. So they could do the same thing and they'll say, well, I just didn't notice, I didn't notice that person held the door for me. No big deal, right? To them, if they're the culprit. But when other people cause the injury to them or insult to them, they'll feel this incredible insult to their ego. They will lash out in a completely unwarranted, not, unbalanced way, because they don't know, or they cannot calibrate, what's an appropriate measure or an appropriate reaction. So that's what you're dealing with. When you get into a relationship with a narcissist, you'll see this. You'll see it come out from time to time, and you're like, why are you so upset? Because I didn't put one cup away, and I was still using it. But they blow their mind over a cup, that didn't make it into the dishwasher. And okay, I'm not going into the bipolar or the borderline personalities where it might have been things that added up over a period of time that just sets them off or something like that. Narcissists will, out of the blue, just explode, and there will not have to be any history behind it. It's just where they are and where they think justice should fall. And their version of justice is whatever gets them to what makes them happy. That's justice. So if they think that having something of yours would make them happy, they would have no problem at all taking it. Yeah, they're like, well, you know what? I saw this thing in your house and I don't see that you want it or like it. So, or you barely even notice it, but I like it. So I'm just going to take it. And they take it. And no conscience about guilt, no concern, they won't feel shame. They just feel like they're entitled to take what they want because it'll make them happy. And if it includes, if they're interested in sleeping with a coworker and they think that will make them happy, even though they're married, they think that that is justice. It's just because it makes sense to them to go after whatever makes them happy. They don't think about what it will do to you. They won't think that it will hurt your feelings. They won't think that it will hurt the trust between you and them, because they think, well, you can still trust me because it's just this one person that I want to sleep with. It's not like I want to sleep with everybody. And they think that you should allow them to pursue their happiness. So they can't understand why you wouldn't understand this. But if you wanted to do the same thing, then in that instance, to them, justice is you betrayed them. So therefore, you're the bad person for cheating on them. I'm not saying like any of this makes sense, because it just doesn't, right? It just absolutely does not make sense. It is not consistent. The way narcissists think, um, the way they think is not logical. It just is not logical. If they think that they deserve your job, say you're working alongside a narcissist, and they think that you get a promotion, like, or whatever, maybe you're the manager and they're the underling, and they believe that they deserve your job. They will have no problem with conscience undermining you, smearing you, spreading rumors about you, trying to take credit for the work you do, and giving you the blame for when they fail so that they can get your job. Like, no conscience about it whatsoever. They think like this is accurate in their mind, their view of you, because they want your job. And this happens also if you think about, white collar crimes, people who take even from their families and friends. Oh my gosh, where they will rob their family and friends blind, take their life savings, and they have no conscience about it because they think, well, this is what will make me happy. This is what I want. So if I want it and I think it'll make me happy, justice is I get it. I just take it from you. Then that's justice. That has happened with, I told you about a covert narcissist I knew and her son, who would just always take things from her. And it wasn't because he was on drugs or anything like that at the time either. It would be, he just felt like, it's his to take and he deserves it. So in his mind, he actually believes that he loves his mother and that he cares about her, because he would never, like, maybe physically hurt her. He would never hit her, but he has said horrible things to her. He has also robbed her blind, and yet he still thinks that he's a good son. He still thinks that he is a caring, loving son to his mother. And she, that's where I go, you know what? Narcissists deserve each other. That's where that's justice, and it's almost satisfying to go, oh my gosh, they can have each other, just if they would leave the rest of us alone, if they would just rob each other, and go after one another and manipulate each other and guilt each other into believing the other one loves them. Just let them do it to each other. And in this mother-son situation, I'm like, yes. At first, I thought the mother was the victim until I discovered that she was a covert narcissist. And you know what? Once I realized that, my eyes were open to all the red flags that were there all along the way that I should have noticed to show me that she also is a narcissist. But the ones who are covert, they portray themselves so much as a victim that you feel sorry for them, you pity them, and you are empathizing with them. And when you're doing that, you don't see the reality. You don't see logically what's really happening. Same thing with that interview I was telling you about earlier in this podcast or this video, is that the inmate who was talking and being interviewed about what he was doing to the other inmates, you would have no clue what a horrible monster he was. You would have no you would think, wow, this guy really does have a heart of gold. By the way, oh my gosh, I've done a couple of videos on two different criminals. Let me see. One was about the mask. What's the mask that what's the narcissist mask? I think is one of them. There was this guy who, in an interview, after trying to hire someone to murder his girlfriend and his wife, I think it was just his girlfriend, but also I showed parts of the interview and recording of him berating his wife at the time. They were going through a separation or something like that, and he talked about how he would murder her parents and how he would murder her. And then he was actually in court because he had tried to hire someone to murder his ex-girlfriend after the wife, right? And now at the time of the interview, he had been involved with another woman who ended up killing herself. But oh my gosh, it's the video that's called "What is the Narcissist Mask?" And I'll put that in the little icon in a circle on this video once it uploads later on. But in his interview with somebody after he was imprisoned, he said he described himself as a guy with a heart of gold. It's just baffling. It just blows my mind how they describe themselves. He actually said that he has a heart of gold. And you think, holy cow, this is how out of touch from reality these narcissists are. They cannot see the damage they do to other people. They only see and exaggerate the things that they do for people, like the times they bought you lunch. They think, see, I'm such a good person. I bought you lunch because I care. I'm such a caring person. I'm so generous. And that's what they see. But they don't think about, well, yeah, they hired someone to kill you. Like, does that not count? In their mind, they just write that part off. It doesn't count to them. There's another video that I had done, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, but I'll put it in the little eye icon. It was this guy who ended up murdering his wife on the day that they were supposed to sign the divorce documents. So she goes missing, and they finally find her body, of course, and he's in jail, and they recorded a phone call he had, I think, with his uncle. And his uncle or cousin, some relative, says to him, you should show some remorse for what you did. Because at first he was complaining to his relative about his ex-wife, or soon to be ex-wife. And that's when the relative said to him, you can't say that in court, and you need to show some remorse. And he says, well, what about me? What happened to her happened so long ago. I think it took them 2 years. I don't even know. It was 2 years or 2 months. I can't remember. Sorry, guys. It was a while ago that I did that video. But he said, well, what happened to her happened a long time ago. What about me and what I'm going through now? And you're like, wow, that's how a narcissist sees themselves. They don't even consider that they took a life. They have no conscience about it. They don't think about, he's not even thinking about his wife, what he did to her and how he abused her. All he thinks about is that right then and there, while he's in jail awaiting trial, how bad it is for him and what he is going through. So, you guys, this is why I want to talk about, at first I thought, do narcissists think they're good? Oh, that's an easy answer. Yeah, they do. They think they're good. But when you start to listen to these interviews, when you start to look at the people in your own life, and this has happened with the narcissist in my own life as well, not on a criminal level, but within the family and within, amongst friends, how narcissists will treat the people in their lives in the outside world, I guess, outside of jail. It makes no sense. It's total illogical behavior. I had an uncle who, well, I have an uncle who, in the past, when he was angry at one of his sisters, she was pregnant for the first time. He's the older brother, she's the baby of the family. So she was pregnant for the first time and, pretty excited, but she was not doing well. Like she had horrible morning sickness to the point where she thought, oh, this can't be good for the baby. And what if something happens to the baby? And he was so angry at her because he felt some kind of personal injury. Like I said, they if they feel an injury or an insult to their ego, they will unleash on you the wrath of hell. They just don't think of what's supposed, deserving or appropriate for that amount of insult. Any insult to them is deserving of, the worst unleashing of anger that they have. So what he did to his sister was he told her that he hopes that her baby dies. Yeah. He tells her that he hopes that she loses the baby, that the baby dies inside her belly, and that she has to carry this dead baby. I mean, he's just disgusting. And I was like, what the heck? Why would he say that to her? And you guys, this is not normal. This is not normal thinking. You don't wish that on your own sibling who has been good to you and that you supposedly love, right? What she did to him was not a huge thing. It was something financial. He wanted to take advantage of her financially, and she said no. I think he wanted her to co sign for his house, and she did at first. And then when she got married, she asked him to take her name off of there, off of the loan. And that made him angry. I'm like, oh, so that's why he wishes death on her baby, her unborn baby, and you're like, what the heck? What are they thinking? And then, of course, after that, he never apologized. He never even thought about it again. I mean, he held that anger towards her for, I guess, a year. And when they started talking again, it was like, oh, yeah, nothing happened. I didn't ever say anything bad to you, and he still expected her to kowtow to him and be the little sister and be obedient and respectful of him. And he never considered for a moment that he had anything to apologize for to repair their relationship. And this has been what it's like for all of his siblings who have a relationship with him. He tried kicking another, I mean, this guy, he's so abusive, physically, verbally, financially. If he can take advantage of them, he did. Uh, but he saw himself as a good guy. And the reason he saw himself as a good guy is because once in a while he was helpful to them. Once in a while he showed up and did something decent. And so he thought, look, I'm such a good person, and all my siblings are horrible people that he deserves to take advantage of and take from. If he sees something they have that he wants, then it's complete logic to him to just take it. Like, well, of course. So this is what they've had to live with growing up with him and in their adult life. And pretty much nobody deals with him now. Nobody really wants to deal with him, except, of course, my mom, who the two of them are now cohorts. They support each other in that they gang up on other siblings together sometimes, but they still come against each other at times. Anyway, it's just total chaos when you're in a relationship with a narcissist. Don't expect that suddenly they're going to be logical. Somehow you're going to be able to reach them and get them to understand or be able to reason with them. They are so illogical. It's like, and that's why they call it a mental disorder, by the way, you guys. Narcissism is not a simple, hey, I just think I'm so good looking, I'm so enthralled with my good looks, or yeah, it's not just that. It's an actual mental disorder where they cannot take their eyes off themselves. They cannot even see that the world includes other people, unless those other people are just there to make things easier or better for them. Then that, so long as those people are serving that purpose, those people can be a part of the narcissist world. The narcissist will allow them to be part of their world. But make no mistake, whoever is a part of the narcissist world is not a whole person to the narcissist. They are just an object to be used, an object that they might even fawn over for a little bit, right? When they feel like it, they'll share, in prison, sadly enough, they'll share their commissary stuff with them. They'll do some nice things to them. They'll actually be maybe affectionate towards them. But make no mistake, you're just an object that they will be using. And once they're done using you, or once you're separated somehow, then you cease to exist in their world, except for when they reminisce. And when they reminisce, and I know, when they reminisce, they exaggerate the good that they did. They eliminate anything bad they ever did, and they try to make it this fantasy where other people should be jealous of them for what they had. Anyway, oh my gosh, you guys. These are, some examples I've given you today of how a narcissist thinks. And they actually think they're good people. And because they think they're good people, despite the horror that they cause, that's what makes them so dangerous to be in a relationship with. And if you're considering like, oh, but I care so much for this person, or, and you can care for a person, by the way, if you're able to say, make meals for somebody, or maybe it's an elderly parent and you want to go and clean their house once a month for them, or you want to do something nice that will help them, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. But do not enter into a relationship, a back and forth relationship, because you are not going to be receiving the care and tenderness and appreciation back from them. You're going to be receiving abuse as you continue to give. And that's the relationship with a narcissist. You continue to give, they give abuse. Unless there is a situation where you can limit your interaction with them to the point where they know they have to be on good behavior in order to be around you. And that's the crazy thing. That can happen. A narcissist can be on their good behavior when they're with you, but do not trust that they, do not believe that they actually value you. And do not believe that they are loyal to you, because if they can smear you to other people to make themselves look good and to make drama out of their boring lives, they will. And if they can steal from you or rob you, they will. So do not trust that you're, say, giving them access to your ATM account, or to anything, to your codes. Don't give them access to your checkbook or to your credit cards. Be careful of that. So, you guys, that has been what I've thought about when someone was asking me, do you think that narcissists are good? I'm going to check here and see what conversation has been going on. Oh yeah. Yeah, without conscience. Conscience. And I'll put that, like I said, if you go into my website, escapefromcrazytown.com, you'll go into the shop tab, and in there you'll see all these links to Amazon books that I have listed there, all the books that I've recommended, and Without Conscience is one of them. If you order from that link, then I'll get some kind of a referral uh, fee. So that would be nice. Let me see, you guys. I'm just scrolling here. Yeah. Water I was talking about, earlier I was talking about Stockholm Syndrome, which is when we learn to love our abuser. Oh my gosh. No Mo says some are in prison because they thought they were too good looking. I had a prison field trip for a psych class. Yeah. Oh my gosh. After watching that documentary I was telling you guys about, oh my gosh, somebody had written in the comments, they should be showing this to kids, high schoolers, to deter them from going to prison, to being straight, because, oh my gosh, to living a straight life, because just the horror that goes on in there. It's very sad. Yeah, Nomo says they use their looks to manipulate people. Yes, absolutely. And narcissists do. They do use their looks to manipulate people. And they do have a certain power, because of their looks. Men will fall for really good looking women. Really good looking women can manipulate their way around things. Here's the deal though, there are really good looking people who don't manipulate, who haven't learned that they have this power. Thank God, right? They are not there to try to take advantage of people. They just happen to be very attractive people, but they don't use it to control other people or get their way or um, manipulate others, which is, I think, great. But those who learn early on that people give them preferential treatment because they're good looking, are nicer to them, they get this persona. And some of them, I'm not saying all of them, the ones who are narcissistic or who become narcissistic, they they garner that power, they harness it, and they use it against others, and they learn, like, wow, it's like this weird superpower, and they'll use it to manipulate men or women into bed. They'll use it to manipulate. Oh, by the way, I don't know, this sounds so terrible, and I'm going to get some people mad at me, but I was watching some, I don't know if it was a documentary, it was so many years ago, or maybe it was an interview where a pharmaceutical sales company, okay, these companies that go to hospitals and to doctors' offices and sell their prescription drugs, right, that their company produces. Guess who they send as salespeople? They send these incredibly gorgeous model looking people to go, right? Makes sense. To go and sell pharmaceuticals to doctors, and to hospitals, the admin that is in charge of purchasing such things. And why? Why do they not use people who really know and understand the drug? No, they send people who are really good looking because they know that this is part of the power. They know that when a brilliant doctor is looking at this gorgeous person, they may be more swayed to take, or an order from them. Yeah, that's just the way it is. It's marketing. It's crazy. But people actually will use this power in personal relationships. And that's where it gets uh, very dangerous for each of us. Oh, Mike says, good morning, Escape. Why do narcissists and sociopaths lie and steal constantly? I think I answered that. It's because they have no conscience about it. Their their view of the world is, their view is that, or goal, I guess, is that whatever makes them happy. And so they strive to achieve the things that make them happy. So if they think having this thing will make me happy, then they're going to go and get it. If they lie, and that's why they lie too. They think that that makes sense to them to lie, cheat, steal to get what they think will make them happy. And to them, that's total logic because they have no conscience. And when they have no conscience, they have no empathy, right? Or maybe vice versa. If they have no empathy, there's no way that they would have a conscience about what it does to the other person if they lie, cheat, and steal from them. Watergrove says, yeah, in prison you see a lot of group thinking. You definitely know the weak from the strong in prison. It's a matter of where the officers are at the time. I've seen ringmasters get away with the abuse. It is so sad, and I feel so bad for inmates. I really do. And I wish we had a system that actually worked on rehabilitating. But when you think about it, the big question on channels like this, right, from Escape from Crazytown is, can narcissists be cured? And the ones that end up in prison and are narcissistic, no, I don't think they can. I don't think they can. We all have been witnessing it out here, how they don't change. And so even if you try all these rehabilitation programs, they're just not going to change. The problem, though, is that the prison systems right now, the way they are, it's like they perpetuate abuse and almost reward abuse. And that's really scary. I mean, they don't try to reward it, and I know the prison system is trying to stop this type of thing from happening, but they don't catch it, and the inmates know how to get away with it. So when someone gets sent to prison as a deterrent, as a lesson to them for the crime they committed out here, and then they get brought into this culture that makes life so crazy because they have to survive in a world, in an environment where 90%, up to 90% of the population is narcissistic. Can you imagine if you had to live in that kind of a population? What would happen to you after a few years? Like, would you become narcissistic as well? Would you become abusive? Would you lose your sense of morality and conscience and empathy? And that's what really concerns me about our prison system right now. Yeah. Mike, I don't know if I said hi, but hello. RVZ77 says, good Lord, what are we talking about here? Well, I hope you're caught up. So, yeah. Obi-Wan, good to see you. Oh, I hate to hear that. Revolution now. Officers also set inmates up to be assaulted. Yeah, you know what? Uh, uh, I don't doubt it. It's very, very scary what happens in jail. In that documentary called Turning Out the Gay Culture in Prison, I think that's what it's called, Prison Gay Culture, something like that. It's not really even gay. It's not about being gay. It was about control. And it's very disturbing, extremely disturbing. But in that documentary, they did show video of a prison guard who was um, assaulting one of the inmates, and he got caught. And they caught him on video actually, because that inmate talked to another guard, who then together set up a sting for that one guard the next time he was doing that to the inmate, and they caught him. Oh my gosh. And okay, to listen to him, they interviewed that guard. He did not go to jail. He lost his job, he lost his license, so he could not work anymore in a prison. And they interviewed him. I don't think they like his face wasn't on camera, but you hear it was an audio interview. And he lives somewhere along a river, so he gives tours on the river to make a living. And he says that that's how he makes his living now, and he feels so sorry for himself. He acts like he's the victim, and he actually said that he was trying to, he says, and this is what I get for trying to be helpful to that inmate. Yeah. He actually believed that his assaults on the inmate was him helping the inmate. So when you ask the question, do narcissists think that they're good? Yes, to a very criminal degree. It's scary, it's criminal. You do not want to be involved with a narcissist because they see whatever they do to you as them helping you somehow. Like you deserve this. Um uh yeah. There's so many other things I could say about that. Now let me get back into some of these comments. Yeah. Yeah. Watergrove says, yeah, some of the guards do. They turn a blind eye. It's sad. Oh, Obi-Wan says, hey, now that I finally uncovered what my narc was hiding, I learned a lot, and these channels just upset me. These clowns make me sick. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Obi-Wan. I hope that, oh, you know what? Let's end on a good note after this such a dark, dark topic today. And I thought, how could this topic be so dark? Do narcissists think that they're good? You'd think like, okay, this is kind of a lighter topic, but it turns out to be such a dark topic, such a deep and disturbing topic. But yeah. Let me see. Before we go on to the final part of this video, I want to read some more of the comments. Water Gross says it's a huge party that nobody wants to attend and stick around in the narc's mind. I'm not quite sure. That was a while ago, the comment. No, Mo says it will get better. Oh, Obi-Wan. Mine doesn't faze me anymore, and I realized I never really loved him because he is a total sick-minded stranger in my eyes, 20 years or not. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that because that is the highlight of the narcissists in your life. We can get over them. And it gets to the point where it doesn't traumatize us anymore, even to think about them. Once we learn and we practice, at the beginning I talked about putting into good habits into use and to practice. Oh, I'm sorry, into practice. So put good habits into practice regularly. And part of the good habits is your mind. Where does your mind go? So if your mind is on positive things, on building good things, on motivational things, you will get to the point where when you do think or reflect about your experience with the narcissist in your life, you're not going to fall back and have that trigger reaction, that horrible feeling in the pit of your stomach or the fear or the anger. You just won't feel that anymore. You just feel like, wow, that was a lousy chapter of my life, right? But it's over. But you read it as if it was in somebody else's book, that chapter, even though it was you, even though you were that was part of your life. You won't see it as a continuation of your life. You'll only see it as, oh, that's the past. And it was this chapter, and I read about it, and now I'm, done with it, unless I want to go back and reread it just to learn more about myself or learn more about where I should have put up boundaries or see the difference in myself now to compare, right? Where you are now and where you were then. Now, don't let your shame overtake you because that's another thing that victims do tend to do is when they reflect on what happened in the past with them and the narcissist and they can see a little more clearly, they'll still, we will still tend to feel ashamed of ourselves, whether because we started behaving like the narcissist and we're engaged with them in hurting other people or whatever they were doing, or we'll feel ashamed because we feel like, how stupid were we that we fell for this, and we'll shame ourselves for that. Don't do that, because it doesn't help. It's not going to be one of those things that will help heal you. In fact, shame will keep you tied to it in such an unhealthy way, where you don't move forward and you don't forgive yourself. That's the difference between us and narcissists. Narcissists will forgive themselves but not change. Yeah, they'll forgive themselves for the horrible things they do, and they won't, but they don't see why they have to change. Whereas we change. We decide, like, we're not going to be like that anymore, and we refuse to continue to live the way the narcissist trained us to live. Um, but then we still feel ashamed, and we carry that shame, and we don't forgive ourselves even though we've changed. So forgive yourself when you have changed, when you have decided for yourself, this is how I want to now live my life. I want to be productive. I want to be good. I want to make a difference in my circle, of influence. Um, and you're making a difference, you're good to other people, you're helping others to get through this type of thing, forgive yourself. It's okay. We've been there. We've all been there. We've been taken advantage of. We've been deceived. We even may have joined in with the narcissist with their damaging behavior. And now we look back and we're like, wow, how terrible that we did that, but we're not still doing it. Okay. We're not still doing it. The narcissist, however, is still doing it. And yet they forgive themselves because they think they're good people. They don't actually change. All they do is they mask it or cover it with this facade of being good, right? So they believe that they're good, kind, gentle, forgiving, generous, or the victim themselves. So they forgive themselves for all those reasons, but without changing, without making any alteration to their behavior, or even taking accountability, responsibility for what they did to somebody else. They don't even do that. Whereas we do. We take accountability. We if you can apologize to people, do that. I'm so sorry, I didn't know what I was doing, I apologize. If you, or not, I'm sorry that I got it mixed into that, and I'm so ashamed or embarrassed of myself, with myself for doing that to you. You can apologize, but the narcissist does not. And even if you know what, people have talked about forgiving. You don't need somebody to apologize to you for you to forgive them. But I also feel like if you cannot, or you're just not in touch with the people that you've hurt in your past, you can still apologize to them whether they know that you're apologizing or not. Like, put it out there. Let them know, in the universe, to God, however you pray, let let someone know that you feel regret and that you apologize. And this is what I do. There are people that I hurt, gosh, not a lot of people or something like that, but I remember one girl in high school. I know it's so long ago and so silly, but I was not nice to. And it's because I went along with the stupid group mentality, right? And I was rude to her one day, and I never saw her again after that, never interacted with her again after that to apologize. But even now, I'll think back whenever that comes to mind and I feel shame or I feel guilt about it. Um, Instead of not forgiving myself, and I guess I'm still kind of working on that, instead of not forgiving myself, I have to forgive myself and say, it happened so long ago. What the heck did I know? I was an idiot teenager, you know. But that's not good enough, right, for me. So I pray for her. I wish her blessings. I ask that God would bless her and encourage her today. So when she comes to mind, That's what I do. So who knows, if we see each other again one day and good things have happened to her, it could have been, because I'm sending good karma her way, who knows. But do that. Do that for yourself. Do something good. Counteract whatever bad you put out in the world with something good. So that's what I do. Yeah, Mike says narcissists seem to think they are above the law. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, revolution now. I'm so sorry. Says, yeah, they killed my cousin for getting smart with an officer and hung my nephew's friend in his jail cell for hitting a cop with a car, and they all got away with it. Ah, I can understand now why, suicide is a big thing too in jail, because if they are mixed in with the general population and they're being abused like this, I cannot even understand why people, yeah, how they can continue to live that way. Wild Bird, good to see you. Yeah, yeah. Nomo says no self regulation, only irrational behaviors. Yeah, I have another story for you, but we are actually coming to the end of our video, you guys. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes here to wrap up. I really don't want to go past an hour and a half. Watergrove says, sorry to hear that loss, Revolution. These narcs in power, yeah, should not be allowed. Yeah. Yeah. Revolution now says they never admit fault, even when you have proof. They just explode on you and point the finger towards you. Exactly. That's why they're so illogical, because even if you have facts and proof and evidence, just like the guy I was telling you about who considered himself having a heart of gold, they have audio proof of him cursing out his wife and telling her how he would murder her parents in front of her, and how he, yeah. So, and yet he says he has a heart of gold, right? I mean, they make no sense. No sense. Wildbird says, the next used to take my personal items all the time and then tell me I was way too uptight for getting upset about it. Yes, right? They feel entitled to everything, anything that makes them happy. If they want it, then they're entitled to it. And they don't understand why other people get upset about it. Just replace it, for crying out loud, they think, right? They'll use up your stuff and expect you to support them. They just don't see what the big deal is. And that, yeah, Mike says narcissist plus sociopath equals double standards. Yeah, they live by a double standard. That's why you don't want to be in a relationship with them, because you're never, first of all, I mean, it's not about winning and losing, because you're not in a relationship to win, but you're never going to be able to find happiness there. You're just not. And yeah, you're going to lose every argument, and you're going to lose constantly with them. Watergrove says, yep, I've had experiences where I ended up abusing the police because of their acts, only to find out later that there is a good complaint system here where their sergeant holds them accountable. Oh, wow. Yeah. And I'm not knocking the police either, by the way. I have some friends who are police officers, and I appreciate the police that I've interacted with. Not the ones who've given me speed tickets, of course, speeding tickets, but I understand they're doing their job. And I feel such sadness when I've seen these videos of police officers facing harm and being um, attacked, at traffic stops and stuff like that. I'm just like, yeah. Just be real. Just good to see you. Oh, wow. Nomo says, I'm planning my exit and plan to leave this summer. I have a job interview today and have registered with an abuse agency to get help for my kids and I. He has an apartment but pays for my house. All right. Well, we'll keep praying for you, Nomo. You know, stay strong, get that job, get your independence, and when you can, be completely financially free of him. Well, you guys, oh, I'm trying to go through these comments, so I'm sorry that I'm missing some of your comments here, but I wanted to say thank you for joining me today. And, the seemingly simple question of, does the narcissist think that they're good, leads us into the crazy dark mind of a narcissist and why they think they're good. Crystal Jean, good to see you. And Melody and Huda. So many of you guys came on. Thank you so much. I appreciate seeing you here. I'm glad you guys were able to make it. Wow. I'm going. Oh, Amina, where are you? Oh, it's been a while. Says it was nice seeing you all after some time. I've not been here. Be safe. Yes, all of you guys, be safe. Blessings to you. Goodbye, Obi. Goodbye, Melody, Crystal Jean, Amina. Good to see you guys. So blessings to you, and I will talk to you next week. Actually, I'm going to be on travel for the next couple of weeks, and I'll be taking you with me. Hopefully, we'll have some time to see some good things together, and maybe we can go live. That would be cool. All right. Well, blessings to you. Take care. Remember that you are not like the narcissist. You have an opportunity to have a good life. And even if you're right now, you can't see how you can one day even step away from the pain you're feeling, know that you can. Know that there's so many of us out here that we're no longer controlled by that pain. And we also no longer feel that pain. That is the beauty of life. You don't have to carry this pain for the rest of your life. I know some people say they do, but you don't have to. If you want to let it go, you can. You absolutely can. And you can move on. There are so many good things ahead for you. And there's so many good people here as well. And I thank you guys for all sharing and coming on and supporting one another. Blessings to you guys, and I will talk to you next week.